maybe. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is Friday with Fran. You have tuned in, and we hope that we can keep you entertained and teach you something in the next hour. If you are watching live, please let us know, #live. If you are watching in the replay, let us know, #replay. Also, if you would give us a thumbs up or a like and a subscribe to our page or to our channel, that way, every time we go live or something goes live on my page, you will get notification because you don't want to miss my stuff. It's amazing. And when I bring Fran with me, it's exponentially more amazing. So make sure you do all those things so you get that information when we are here. So, hey, Fran, how's it going?
Hi. You know, it's been an amazing day. I got a lot accomplished already.
Oh, that's good. I can't say that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's been an amazing day because every day is an amazing day. I just don't know that I've gotten as much accomplished as what you have gotten accomplished, and that's okay. What have you gotten accomplished today?
I went running and I made this huge. I actually planned it this time instead of like driving here, then there, and there, and like that. I made a big circle.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
got it all done and got back
helped?
in time.
Yeah. No, nobody bumped into your car this time. Nobody. Nope. That's good. That's good. Nobody, let's see, what was the other thing that you were doing one week and you were like, oh, I just got home because this happened. And you didn't add any extra stops in there. That's what you've done before too.
Yeah.
You've added, I can make this stop. I'll do this one too.
Huh? Oh, yes.
I said yeah.
We actually did. We didn't do a stop. We chose to be wise and just get back so that I had opportunity to reposition for a little bit and then come on.
Nice.
And then come on and cause havoc and mayhem with the screen.
You did not cause havoc and mayhem. It actually just kind of was more of my day. More of the same of the things that I've
But I didn't want to add that kind to your day. I'd rather add fun.
Oh, hi, Yanko.
No, Yanko's here.
Yeah.
So,
no.
How are you? How are you? I mean, what can we do for you?
Oh, well, there's an object missing that needs to be found, and it is fairly important. So I'd like to find that. And
so we should launch a search party.
Yeah. And it's got to be in one of our vehicles or in the house. It's a credit card. It's not being used. So I know it's still in my possession. I just can't find it.
Okay.
So, so I've been searching for it actually for a few days. And now it's getting a little more intense because it's like, okay, it's been a few days that I've looked for this now and I still can't find it. And I've looked everywhere I can think. So I know I'm not the only one that has ever gone through that. So,
but it sure does add some stress and drama to your day.
It does. Yeah.
And you know what I think about when I think, can you imagine when, it stresses us out when we're missing something and it takes our focus away from that which we're in the moment or other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if you can't focus, if you already have struggles focusing on something and you misplace something, or there's an out of scheduled happening and what it does to you?
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said that because I have had little experiences throughout my life, especially since becoming a teacher, where I've been able to recognize that one little moment and say, oh my goodness, this is probably what somebody with whatever deals with all the time.
Right.
And I think that has helped me. And I'm very thankful to God because I believe that He has revealed those things to me, that I've been able to notice them and then make that connection. This morning, not only is this credit card missing, but I was going to make a payment online for something and was doing it by memory, the routing number and the account number. And I transposed the last two numbers when I was typing in the account number. And I looked at it multiple times before hitting send. And I was like, yep, that's the right thing. And then even when I saw it, when I was in my bank account and I saw that the numbers were the right numbers, I was like, wait. So I went back and I looked at what I had typed in to send, and it still took me some serious concentration for me to see that I had transposed those numbers. So that, gave me that other little, like, this might be what somebody with dyslexia, or this might be what Fran goes through now. Because you have that issue where I know you've said you really have to look at like the shapes and the designs to see if numbers are the same.
Yeah. It is interesting. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Glad you're here with us.
Yes, welcome.
So I have a question for you. Watch. Okay. I'm going to do something, maybe.
Okay. She's been playing with, ooh, look at you.
Oh, wait, I got to figure something else out now.
Oh, okay. You're going to put it up in the screen? Ooh, look at you go.
Did I do it?
You did it.
So what does that say? Because I'm all distracted now.
Oh, it says share in the breakdown of an IEP meeting. The good, the bad, and the I don't know with Shelley and Fran.
So how does that sound about doing? You want to do that? You want to talk about it?
Sure.
I have a really specific reason. I have a really specific reason to ask you why I might want to do that.
Okay, go. Look at you. You're getting so good at this. For anybody who's joining us, for anybody who's joining us and who's never joined us before, within right around Christmas time, a little bit before that, I gave Fran permissions within the StreamYard format to do all the things that she's doing now. And so she's still learning all the stuff and playing with all the stuff. So that's why she's showing me all her new skills.
And by the way, I love your shelf back there. That looks amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, Kevin hung that up for me. And you can't really see it because it's got a glare on it. But you know what that is? Can you tell?
That's your butterfly?
No, it's not my butterfly. That's what I was afraid of. I'm going to have to move it. So it's actually, when I published my book, the publisher sent this to me.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
just the glare off of it.
Yeah, I know. So I'm going to have to figure out, maybe I'll move.
It doesn't glare on that side.
Yeah, so maybe I'll move the butterfly to the other side.
Onto the side. That would be cool. Sorry, I have a cat.
Also, I see, here goes my squirrel. I see you see my tripod, which, by the way, is a Fran trick. If you're ever recording or you're doing any like a reel or a TikTok or something, you use some Velcro or some sort of device like it, and you attach your phone to your tripod, and then you can do all kinds of things. So and
you don't have to buy an attachment. Yeah.
Right. So I made a reel earlier today, and that's why that was sitting there.
Oh, well, aren't you the fancy dancy?
Well, only because you helped me become that. So let's get back to what was your question or your reason or your why.
That reminds me of the movie Up. Remember? Squirrels.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like squirrels.
Yep.
But you know something, since I went that direction with Up, because I was rewatching that movie for motivation, because the balloons are what we visualized way back when we were trying to get my leg to work. That there was balloons tied to my toe and it would raise the foot. Yeah. No, it didn't work, but we sure tried.
Yeah.
But so I was rewatching it, and so one of the neatest sayings in it, Russell was saying, some of the things I remember most are the boring things, or the most fun things, I think. I got to look it up now. I wrote it down. But I thought that was really interesting, and it actually carried over to the IEP meeting. So this truly does tie together.
Okay. I'm going to take your word for it and wait and see how it actually ties together. And in the meantime, I'm moving my blanket that was behind me to in front of me.
It says, I think the boring stuff is the stuff I remember the most. That's what Russell said.
Okay.
And so it made me think about the IEP. So for anyone that doesn't know, which is probably a lot of people because we didn't talk about it,
That's
but
true.
my daughter just had what I thought was her final IEP.
Yes.
But I laughed because it was her preparation for her final IEP. And
Yeah.
we'll get into that more. If you stick with us, you'll find out why it was not her final IEP.
Yeah.
But I thought about boring stuff. And so it made me try to filter all the things that I was trying to advocate for my daughter through her eyes. I wanted to be doing it for her. And I wanted to make sure I was advocating for things that she might want or need rather than the things that I wanted for her or the things that society says we should be advocating for or the things that best practices say she needs to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of was how I filtered that about what I just read. So,
Okay.
does
All
that make
right.
sense?
It does. And so are we ready to get into it or?
Yes, we are. Let's go. You
Okay.
roll with
All
it.
right. I'm going to roll with it. Okay. So an IEP meeting, an annual review, an eligibility meeting, an exits meeting, they're all the same but different.
Mm-hmm.
And also the initial IEP meeting is the same but different. And so for anybody who's watching who doesn't know what an IEP is, I'll quickly do a synopsis of that. IEP stands for Individualized Education Program. The IEP is a document that is written by a team of people to determine the specially
I always
designed.
thought it was planned. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
What, that
Yeah.
the P stands for program? Hey,
Yeah, I
Mom.
thought it stood for plan.
It the actual word is program, but I will be honest, I interchange program and plan all the time.
Oh, okay.
And the only
Sorry, that
reason
was our chipmunk.
that I know specifically that it is program is because when I wrote my book and I would write it in there, the editor came back to me and she's like, you've written it both ways. So you need to pick which one is the right one and which one you're going to go with. And so I had to look it up to see which one was
Got
the right
it. Okay.
one. And it is program,
See,
not plan.
see, that falls under the I don't know,
Exactly.
which
Exactly.
does not mean you are stupid because you do not know. It just means
Exactly.
you do not have that information at the current time.
And also, you might have known the information at one time, but you got into a habit of doing it a different way. And not that your habit is wrong necessarily, but there's other ways to do it. And that
Right.
we can talk about when we get into this discussion a little further.
And I need to apologize to your mom. The reason you could not find us was my fault. So I am so
Not
sorry, Mom.
necessarily. Yeah. So as we mentioned, Fran is learning and playing and doing things, and she had not seen that I had posted that we were doing this today. And so she posted a notice that we were doing this today. And so then we had two notices, and then we had to go in and get rid of one of the notices. So thank you all for finding us, whomever and however you found us.
We were just playing hide and seek. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. You found us.
Electronic hide and seek.
You're it.
Tag, you're it.
No. No, wait, don't go hide. Don't leave. Don't leave. So the individualized IEP program is a document then that is written by a team of people, parents included, who are all experts, parents included. You're the expert in your child. And then that document is what drives the special education services, amount of time, accommodations and modifications, and all kinds of wonderful things. Sorry, I've got my other screen open and I'm distracted by it. So I'm going to close it because otherwise I will be squirreling this entire episode.
Yeah, your mom just said she won because she found us.
So the IEP meeting, then you have to have an eligibility meeting at the very onset of receiving special education services. If you're found to be eligible, then the IEP is written. If you're not found to be eligible, then other things happen. And then you have to review that at least once a year. You have to go through that whole evaluation process at least every 3 years. So every A year, every C years. And then when the child is ready to be out of special education, graduate from high school, or exit school completely, then you need to have an exit IEP meeting. I have never been to an outside of high school exit meeting. And so Fran was having one of those for her child, or so we thought. And so I asked her if I could join, and I was in attendance, only to find out that it was not what we thought it was going to be. So there's that. So, okay, so I've given the introduction of what an IEP is. So now let's go with, oh, okay, I have to keep talking because there's noise in her house. So from a teacher's perspective, writing the IEP, as I said, it is supposed to be a team decision, team meeting. There are lots of different parts to the IEP, and an average IEP is probably, and I don't know this number exactly, so that's why I'm saying probably, it's probably 10 pages minimum, this many pages, because there are so many components to it. But then, depending on how you fill out those components, this number of pages could quickly become this number of pages. And so you could quickly go from 10 pages to 20 or 30 pages. And it's a very informative document. It is supposed to be data driven. And it is supposed to be that the whole team has input.
Yes. And at this IEP meeting, I would like to say that everyone at the table had input.
I would agree.
So there were G people there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, this many. I forgot one.
Yeah. So how can you say how many that
7.
is?
Sorry, 7.
It's okay. There were 7 people at that table, and we took normally an IEP meeting. Did you say how long it normally lasts?
No.
An average time they schedule an IEP. Well, it depends. I know back in the beginning they would only schedule it from the 12 to the 6.
Right. So for 30 minutes.
And now they know that my meetings that take longer. So they normally would schedule them around the clock.
Right. So they would normally schedule it for 1 hour.
Right. This meeting took B times around the clock.
2 hours. Yeah. Yeah. So again, for anyone who's not familiar with our show, Fran, as you've probably figured out, is not using digits to speak. She is using different expressions. She's using letters. She's using the numbers on a clock, but not necessarily saying the time in the way that most people are used to it. And that is because of how the stroke affected her thinking ability when it comes to numbers. So she has learned, and other people have helped her figure out a system for which she can express things, and then have others nearby her who understand that system interpret if necessary. And so when you see me sometimes holding up, numbers of fingers, and then that's why she was saying like B times is 2. So just to give you a heads up, she's really not like trying to confuse you. That's just how she is now. And what she has figured out to communicate what she's trying to say.
And you know what was really interesting? Yep, thanks. You know what was really interesting? I had never shared my different abilities with Allison's teachers or the rest of her team where she goes to school, because I didn't want them to look down upon me and think that I had less knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I didn't want them to feel sorry for me. And these were all the thoughts that were in my head. However, after encouragement with talking with a couple people, if it came up, I determined this time I would go ahead and acknowledge my differences.
Mm-hmm.
And it came up pretty quickly.
Uh-oh. We're not frozen on my side, Mom.
We're not frozen here. We're
Interesting.
still rolling.
Yep. You thought you
Maybe.
found us.
Oh no, come back, Mom.
Oh,
So
wait, it's freeze tag.
hear it. So it came up pretty quickly on I have no idea what, but my daughter, who often translates for me, said, "Mom, it's this," and you're hollering down from the other end of the table, holding up your fingers with numbers, and my friend Allison's co-guardian was under the table doing the numbers so that I could figure it out. So it didn't embarrass me in any way. And it actually, I felt really blessed that I had so many people around me that support the way I communicate, that they don't belittle it, that they don't make it anything special. They just adapt and help me with the communication. So I really felt blessed, and it gave me the courage to go ahead and say, yeah, guys, I don't really get numbers. They kind of get all mixed up. And so occasionally I just need a little translation. And because, oh, what were
I
you?
was just going to add that, and I can wait if you need to finish your thought first.
Oh, may I?
Mhm.
Because I shared that, the person that was facilitating the meeting, because I think that's a good word to say it, because at various times different people led it. So I wouldn't say it was led by her, but she facilitated it.
Mhm.
So the person that facilitated the meeting took the time to say, well, I believe, or if you don't understand, and I will try not to use numbers because we were going over some very intensive data that was number driven, and if I had not said that, I'm sure she would have focused on the number part, and I would have gotten very frustrated and probably shut down, and then felt very inadequate and not been able to focus on the things I needed to do for my daughter. But instead, she was adapted very quickly and showed that she could think outside of the box and said, well, we're going to use the words instead of the numbers about average, above average, below average, and those numbers. And we'll use that. And if you get confused or you have questions, please ask. And that gave me so much freedom and took such a weight off of me trying to hide my different ability and to try to not stress about, okay, I have no idea what they said. And that way, if I got confused, and it happened quite often, honestly, I could say, hey, and I'd reach out to the person beside me or to the person beside me or the person on the other side and say, where are we? What is she talking about? Somebody help me. And I was okay with it.
That's so good to hear. And I'm so excited that you felt blessed and that you felt comfortable sharing. And I don't know if you realized it or not, because she said it kind of quietly, and there were a couple of others talking at the same time. When we were talking close to the wrap up of the meeting, that some scheduling of your daughter's time at a certain location. And the facilitator, as you mentioned, said, oh, okay, so 10-6 is, like it's going to be from 8:12 to 10-6. And we said, yeah. And then she looked at me, she goes, did I get it right? Did I
Oh,
decode it?
did she say that?
Yeah. And she was
Oh,
so excited that
I
she
feel
had
bad
figured
that I
out.
didn't notice it.
Oh, well, that's okay. I mean,
Because
there were several things going on at that time, but yeah, she's like, I think I got it right. And she looked at me, she's like, did I get it right? Yeah. So
that's
I
awesome.
think she did a fabulous job. And like I said,
Yes.
she was excited to be able to communicate with you in the way that you best understood. And I think she did a great job of making as best as possible, you an equal member, because you're right. There were a lot of numbers being thrown out yesterday. There were a lot of times that were being discussed, for when things were going to happen in your daughter's schedule and for how long, and when this was going to happen as far as pick up and drop off, and all of those kinds of things. And they forgot a couple of times, and I still forget.
But
I
it's
still
okay
say
because I just poked somebody beside me and she would sign under the table.
Right. And the great thing was, though, that the facilitator then recognized that your focus wasn't necessarily 100% on her, wasn't perfectly on her. And so she would stop or she would slow down, because as we talked, she is a very fast talker. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because she knows she has so much information to give.
Right.
And that normally those meetings are in a shorter amount of time. So she tries to get it all out as quickly as possible. But yeah, I think, I thought she did a great job of adapting and accommodating, mm-hmm. Because instead of definitely. I just caught myself 100% of the time. Well, she would say perfect. I know she said that a couple of times where she was talking about percentage of something and being 100%. And since instead of saying 100%, she said it's perfect. So that in your mm-hmm. mind, I'm sure made you go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get what that means. And yeah, the whole average, above average, low average, high average, all that kind of, I thought she did a great job with it. I was very impressed.
Yes, I was. So I want to not to get to take the focus off of myself, because we'll come back to it really in some ways. But I do want to encourage others, if you have something that will help the meeting go more smoothly for you so that you can better advocate for your child, or even this can translate into just doctor's appointments or anything. If you have something that will help you, whether it's you don't hear very well and you need them to either be on a certain side of you. In fact, I know this seems like it's all about me today, but it's truly about the IEP meeting as well.
I mean, the show is called Friday with Fran.
I know, but we're talking about a deconstructed IEP meeting, not a deconstructed Fran. But
so, what we did, I mean, it's because you went through this experience that you can give examples.
Right. So I am so sorry. Another thing is I process differently depending on which side you speak into, which ear. So it's actually written into my medical records to stand on my good side. Well, it's actually my bad side of my body, but anyway, my good ear so that I can process better what you're speaking to me. So that's why I always wear the Bluetooth in that ear. Gotcha. Because that's the ear I process in.
Right.
So,
and that's good that you know that and that you can express that.
So I mean, that's just a small example. And specifically, we're going to just cover this area and then we're going to go back to something else. I had ahead of time spoken.
It's all good.
I had ahead of time. You are lower, and okay, I'll roll back.
No, I don't know why.
Here, then you don't have to.
Oh, it's me because I leaned back in my chair. I got lazy.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I had
squirrel.
Chipmunk. I had specifically told you and the other person, Allison's co-guardian, on which side to sit. And there was a reason for it, because I get my visual cues from the other person. And she has to be sitting in front of me, between me and most everybody else, so that I can still pay attention to them and just look for cues when there's something spoken that I don't know and she already knows it and she's translating it for me. Mm-hmm. We rolled, got there, the door opened, and that was one of the bad part of the meeting. I went, and I don't know if I said it out loud, but I said, in my head, I thought, my seat's taken. I had sat in the seat that I always sit for IEP meetings as long as that school's been there. I mean, literally. So through my son and now through my daughter, I had always been in the same spot, and that seat was gone. And I was like, what do I do? And it really threw me for a loop. It threw out everything that I knew. It it agitated me, and I thought, how much more does this do my daughter or my son or someone else who is so set on a routine and a schedule? And then I realized, yeah, I'm really set on routines too, apparently, because you were
Well, it's
helping
how
me
you had
out.
prepared.
Right, I had prepared it, and you were helping me out and rolled me in, and I was trying to place you guys on either side of me, but you would have done your best, but you have never been through meetings with me, so you would not have known what I was expecting. So you were sitting on my good side for processing and to be between people, but it didn't help me any
Right.
at that time because so I just said, rather than because I hadn't revealed, it hadn't come up at that point, my differences, I just said my neck, and which was a valid point. My neck was getting a crick in it because I was looking over backwards trying to figure out what I was doing. So
Right.
we just repositioned, and the rest of the meeting went more smoothly. So even where you're seated, it's okay to say, "Hey, would you mind? I would prefer to sit here. It makes me more comfortable." Because you are an equal member of the team, as you point out. There's a reason. So back to the IEP.
Well, I
You
do want
said,
to. I do, and I want to. I want to add something to that. As we were talking, and you talked about all of the, like if there is something that you can do that will alert the team to make the meeting run a little bit more smoothly for you. And I was just thinking, myself, and it happened at the meeting yesterday, not as much to me, but two people, one had their back to the window, the other one was sitting perpendicular, so like this to the window, and somebody went out the door by the room where we were in and they walked outside. And so the person who had her back to the window turned to look, the person who it was on her side turned to look. And so, if that's something, if you know about yourself that you get distracted easily, then if you walk into a room and there's a wall of windows and you know that things outside are going to draw your attention and you don't want to deal with that, but there aren't any seats by the window, it's okay to ask, and then explain why you're asking. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, if I sit with facing the window, I'm going to be looking outside and I need to focus. And so it would really be helpful to me if I could sit with my back to the window.
yeah.
So, knowing those kinds of things, not just
Or
hearing
to say,
or
can the
vision.
blind go down?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And if it's a super sunny day and you don't want to say that it's a focus issue, just say it's too bright outside. If it's going to be that you want to move, or I mean, there's ways to do it, but don't be afraid to make others uncomfortable so that you can be more comfortable.
Because you matter just as much as anyone else at that table.
And in some instances, more so. And your being able to be relaxed as much as possible is very important to you being able to hear as well as process what's being said to you, and to figure out what you want to say and be able to say it.
To be able to communicate clearly the thoughts. And you know what? I'm going to tag into this communicate. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Write out some of the things. You don't have to write out everything, but at least have the gist of the important things you want covered. Because if they're not covered, then you're able to say, well, I had really want this covered. I know I see we're out of time, or I know I'm aware we're out of time. We're going to have to schedule another meeting. But if I know that in the past, if I didn't have it written out, I wouldn't remember everything as the time, and I would start getting more and more anxious because I knew, and I was like, I know I have something, I know I have something, and then I would forget it, and then I would have to send an email to everybody, and it was just a mess. And this way, you can focus on the here and now, knowing that if it's not covered, you're just going to say, okay, we need to have another meeting.
Yeah. And that's such a key point, because I'll be perfectly honest, I did not realize the amount of stress that comes from not being on the school's part of the team until the first meeting I ever went to, where I was part of the parents' part of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I had lots of knowledge at that point, way more than the average parent has, of how a meeting is going to run, and what all the words are that are being spoken, and what all the acronyms mean, and all of that, how an IEP looks and how it's developed. And I was still getting lost, because it was it just so happened to be the person that facilitated the meeting yesterday was the first meeting I attended with a parent. And she talks very fast. And I was like, whoa, I knew that about her, but when I was receiving it rather than being part of the giving of it, it had a whole different tone. It had a whole different atmosphere to the environment. So
ambience, yeah.
Yeah. So don't be afraid. And I know it's uncomfortable, but I want you
You're
to
doing
think
it for your child.
exactly. You're going to be uncomfortable the whole time anyway. But at least if you ask some questions and you get some clarification, or you ask for some accommodations for yourself, you'll be a little less uncomfortable. Hopefully.
I call it, some people call it do it afraid. I say do it because I love you. I'm doing it because I love them. And that's why I did it. Totally.
So you held up your binder. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to hold it up again. It's a small binder, but it's very full. And this isn't everything. I actually had another packet in my bag that day. But yes, after many times of talking with you, instead of just my folder and me pulling out papers flying everywhere, I did go ahead and I took my worship folder and made it out Allie's IEP binder. But I was just going to try to find the IEP, but now I can't find it. But this packet, can you see how thick that is?
I know how thick it is, but I don't really think it's coming across. Yeah.
Okay. It's about this thick.
Yeah.
That was sitting on the table when we got there. And I'm like, dude, that's a lot of paperwork for me to try to process and understand. And I really wish I'd had it ahead of time.
Yeah. That was definitely a downfall that I saw.
So that was kind of the bad for that. That threw me off. And so I was like, going, and instead of attending to that paper, the way I rebooted was I just pushed it aside and said, I'm not touching it for right now. I'm going to focus on the here and now. And I think it's important to, if you're distracted, say, okay, give me a second. I need to get my bearings. Because by the end of the meeting, for me personally, I was drained, and I knew that I was asking repeatedly, where are we? Because we were flipping through pages and there were numbers, and it was very quickly, and it was from another person was leading at that point or communicating, and they had a different delivery style, and I was just getting used to the other one. And it was kind of a popcorny type of communication. It was this page, and then we flipped a bunch of pages, so it wasn't a flowing. So a hint is, say, could we go in order? Could we go through this packet from front to back? Because when we went through, my daughter had a lot of assessments, and that's what we were talking about, the number-driven part of it. We went front to back of that assessment. Well, for the most part. There was a little bit of flipping because of the way where the table was, but it was a little easier for me to find it. Or as someone was sitting in front of me, they would just kind of tap, 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 tap where we were until I flipped through the pages till I was like, I think our pages are close enough. All right, we'll go with it.
So I wished you would have. I didn't know that. I kind of thought so, but I wasn't 100% sure. But I wish you would have said, hang on, I'm not there yet. But I know you were getting uncomfortable and you were feeling some
Well,
pressure.
I didn't even know where I was trying to find where we were, and that
Right.
was my focus. I I wasn't that I was embarrassed to say I didn't know we were. I was so lost by that point. I'm like, and at one point I just pushed the papers aside and sat there.
Yeah.
And that's when someone else stopped the meeting and turned and found it in the pamphlet and handed it to me, and then we moved forward.
And I think because you hadn't, I don't think, had those ahead of time, had you?
No,
Oh, no, yes, you did.
no, not that huge packet. Nope.
No, not the one where they were talking about her work stuff, but when they were talking about the assessment scores.
Yes, I did
Yeah.
have that.
So you had that ahead of time. So I think what the facilitator was doing was summarizing, because I was having a hard time because I hadn't seen any of the paperwork. So I was trying to follow what she was
Mm-hmm.
saying, and she was summarizing what was written out very detailed.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, okay, wait, where's, oh, okay. And then I'd have to read really quick. And I'm like, wait, what did she just say? And, so for that purpose, make sure that you ask in writing for a draft copy of the IEP 3 to 5 school days before the meeting, and the data that goes with the decisions that are being proposed in that draft IEP.
And I had all but that final little bit of data. Well, it was a lot of data, but
It was,
I
and
did have. It was nicely put together.
It was,
That was
it
the
was,
good.
and it was very well done, and she definitely had data to support what she was saying. But yes, you should have seen that beforehand.
So, I do want to tell you something neat I did this time that I have not done in the past.
Okay.
You ready?
Besides putting it in the binder.
Besides putting it in the binder, it was another Shelley Master IEP Coach recommendation. Are you ready for it?
I am.
I typed up my parent input so that it could just be easily inserted into the IEP instead of having her type what she thought I said. Because when I talk quickly too sometimes. And also, you might summarize it just trying to get it all in and not truly get what I meant.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that she appreciated that, because she does. Honestly, I've been in, as I said, my very first meeting after leaving teaching and becoming a consultant was with her, and she does. And even when I worked with her, she types like, mad skills. She's very fast, but she's still not going to get word for word what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's so funny? They pointed out that she was typing. I know she types, so that didn't bother me. And honestly, I wasn't focused on it. I didn't even hear it because I know she types.
Right.
So it didn't bother me, but they took the time to point that out. I'm like, well, she's always done that. Why are you telling me that? Tell me something new.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I appreciated that they had. So
I have a question for you.
Oh.
Speaking of Shelley-isms, Master IEP Coach things, and the binder. Yeah. So did you find the binder to be better, worse, or the same as the system that you'd had before?
For the meeting, it was worse in some ways for me.
Okay.
For the lead up and the preparation, it was way better.
Okay.
Because I could keep everything organized, and as I was writing out my questions and reviewing, it was way easier in a binder than stapled and in my folder. But during the meeting, it was too much information. There was too much, and I knew exactly where everything was. I had a section for this, a section for that. So it was just that there was too much. And I had, for me personally, going, okay, I know the information's there, but I felt like all eyes were on me when I was looking for that email. And it was like, it would have been easier almost to look it up on my phone.
Gotcha.
That kind of thing. Yeah. So,
and that's good to know, because
does that help?
Yeah, because I don't use it in the same way that a parent uses it. So, you know,
Because
if it's, and with technology, exactly what you said, you know, having it, oh, I could just pull my emails up on my phone now. When I designed this, I wasn't thinking about people being able to pull that up on their phone.
right. Or I could see even having, because I use Google Drive a lot, having everything scanned in, and then I could click on the documents I needed. But you don't always know if you're going to have Wi-Fi. A lot of places,
Right.
Wi-Fi spotty or data spotty, cell services spotty.
Right.
So I just wanted to quickly, we may have to make this a B-parter type thing.
We're
Just saying.
okay. We've got,
Are we?
yeah, we've got,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to say what I put in my parent input. Is that okay? So
Absolutely.
I had just like an opening type statement, and then I went through personal independent living and gainful employment, both strengths and weaknesses for my daughter. And those would be different, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, for a younger child, because you probably wouldn't have gainful employment for someone in grade
Right.
school.
But
So
you would think
so
about it, hopefully.
you're right. So those were kind of the areas I focused on, which I focused. And it actually helped me a lot because I had to find strengths and weaknesses for my daughter. I had to look through her eyes to see what were her strengths because they weren't always what I would have chosen. And my sister actually helped me with that too. It was very handy. And
Good.
then following that, I wrote some more things. Like I wrote this. Is it okay if I read?
It's yours. You're, it's, if it's okay with you, it's okay with me.
As I reviewed this final IEP for my daughter, we had a lot of questions and some concerns. I asked her many of the questions, and she answered some, but it led to more questions. Why did we focus on something when, according to her, all she wanted to do was something else? And
Now, I'm just going to clarify. It doesn't say something and something else. It actually was specific to. So, just want, if anybody's going to write one of these, make sure it's specific to your child.
yes, so, and then it gave me this horrible realization. It broke my heart that as a team, not not the educators, not myself, but as a team supporting my daughter, we failed her. And I felt the onus to say that during the meeting. And I didn't, and some people are like, you throw people under the bus? I threw the whole team under the bus if we're going to go there. But no, I wanted us to acknowledge the fact that we missed the boat. We missed the focus on which we should have been doing for her. But I didn't leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I came up with some solutions how to move forward and how to correct what we could in the time we had left for her. And
Yep.
I struggled really hard. And if it wasn't in writing and I hadn't submitted it to her, I don't know if I would have said it. But because I had printed it and I wanted the rest of it to go in, it wasn't like I could cut out that paragraph, tape it back together, and hand it to her and say, well, yeah, there was something else. I don't want you to know about that. So here you go. No, it held me accountable to be real.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, I think it was good because it made you think possibly differently than what you had before. And when I help parents write parent input statements, it is even at the younger ages, we're thinking about what is their life going to be like? What do I intend? What do I envision their life will be like when they are out of school? The whole purpose of an IEP is to prepare a child for further education, employment, and independent living. So we need to be thinking about those three main categories every time we write an IEP. How is this preparing this child for further education, independent living, and employment? And So even at that young age, you have to think about, well, is my child going to work? Where are they going to work? Are they going to have supported work? Are they going to have independent work? Is it going to be a combination? Where are they going to live? Not necessarily where as in a actual location, but where as in, is it completely, in their own apartment, away from mom and dad, with a spouse, with friends? Is it going to be with mom and dad? Is it going to be in some other sort of environment? And then knowing that kind of stuff helps us as the teachers make sure that we're on the same page as you and doing all the skills, looking at all of those areas for weaker skills that we can hone in on or completely build.
And I think that's so key, because for my son, I've been thinking about that from the moment he was born.
Mm-hmm.
For my daughter, it was not quite as evident in the beginning, maybe by the time she was a toddler. And I can't answer those questions for her. I know what I think would be best for her, but only God has that perfect plan. Sometimes I wish he would give us more than the next step, but then there are times I'm so grateful that we only have the next step, because if we had the whole plan, it would be too overwhelming.
Yeah. If we had the whole plan, I think if any negatives were revealed to us in the plan, that would be all we would focus on. Or we'd only be focused on the very end, and we wouldn't get to enjoy all the little steps in the middle.
Welcome to Holland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So
we do still have a few minutes. So what else about the meeting?
Oh, we're going to have another meeting.
Yes, we are.
Even though we were there that many times,
2 hours. Mm-hmm.
We didn't get it all covered, because in reviewing the draft IEP, by having that, I came to the realization that we had dropped the ball on inviting somebody had dropped the ball. Agencies. Somewhere the outside agencies did not get invited. Perhaps I did not communicate which ones, but we just didn't have them. So we're going to have at least something with some outside agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we didn't do anything about transitioning.
Right.
Which, yes, that includes outside agencies, but we never truly addressed the transition.
And having not been to those kinds of meetings before, I don't know if from the school's perspective they think it was addressed, because of, well, here's these goals, here's the transition goals. As long as we're addressing those, we're addressing transition. And then when those outside agencies come in, that's when we address that.
But if we had not brought those outside agencies in, this would have been the final meeting. And where was the transition then? She would have finished her schooling and been done.
I don't think that was the case. The facilitator said she did not, in her mind, this wasn't the last meeting.
Because it was not communicated that way.
Right. It wasn't, because I had said, I'm just here, not in my master IEP coach role. I'm here as a friend, because I've never seen this. I've never seen an exit meeting, and you were having it, and you were kind enough to let me watch. And she then said a little bit later that she appreciated what I said about this being the exit meeting, but in her mind, this was just the eligibility meeting, and that we would have a meeting closer to the end. That was before we ever even got into talking about your parent input statement.
I'm trying to look on this paper. The notification of conference.
Uh-huh.
Does it say it on there somewhere? It's the purpose. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, it'll say the purpose.
Reevaluation.
Yeah.
So I guess it wasn't the final IEP.
Which because you had been thinking that that's what it was. And I don't know if there's a box to check to say that it's a final meeting.
You
I just
mean
know
on
that
their
you,
screen, a box to check?
right. Yeah. And so I know from your perspective, because this was her annual review and you had asked for this evaluation, that you were thinking that this would be the final meeting. So
Because I
when you
was
saw,
told it would be when we
yeah,
do our final, you'll get all that information.
right. So yeah, so that there was not great or not clear enough
So
communication
that
maybe
was
on
the
that
I
part.
don't know, or yeah, you had a lot of I don't knows, didn't you? Answered.
Oh, I think so, definitely. Yeah, there were things, and there were things that I said, I didn't know that. Did you know that? And the facilitator and the teacher in the room said, "Oh yeah, we knew that." And I was like, "Okay. I'm not 100% sure that you knew that, but okay."
Uh-huh.
You said you did,
Yes.
so I'm going to take your word for it, but I don't know that I believe it 100%.
But now they know. Even if they
Well,
didn't know prior, now they know.
right.
Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. And
And
yeah,
and that proves that all of us can continually be learning something new. We cannot all know everything.
right.
Even though I've been doing this for however long, I don't know it all. And you're continually educating yourself so that you can be a better advocate for whomever you represent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most everybody in the room at some point learned something that they didn't know. I certainly did. There were several things. Um, and I'm looking forward to the next one that will truly be the exit one. And I can
Yes,
see if
you
there's
are
any like
invited to that as well.
fanfare or how they do that when somebody's officially leaving the special education system from the public schools. I'm going to lose my earpiece there because my hair was in my ear. Um, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But
Well, can I share an I don't know? Do I have time?
uh-huh. Yep, we have time. Unless it's a super long, I don't know.
No, it's a short I don't know.
Okay.
Even though over my shoulder, the one by the black frame with the shiny light on it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know what that is?
Um,
That's
oh,
my
is that her diploma?
yeah, that's my daughter's
Yeah.
diploma. For all purposes, that's her diploma. I always
Right.
thought that was her official diploma. Guess what? It's
It's
not
not.
her official diploma. Though I
Yeah.
don't think she'll get another one, it's not official.
Right. Yeah.
Beside it is, whoops, beside it is
I know.
my son's certificate of completion. Is it
Yeah.
official? I guess it's official because he's done.
Right.
So, where I'm leading with this is as long as she's in the education system, she does not have an official diploma. No one ever told me that. So, I learned something new. That was an I don't know.
And I learned that, and the teacher that was present learned that because she said, "I didn't know that." Meaning she
Mhm.
didn't know that her students that stayed with her past their quote unquote graduation year until their 22nd birthday year um, received a diploma, some of them, and maybe not all of them. Maybe there's, maybe that can be different. But yeah, so from what I understood is that she has that diploma and she had all of her credits that she needed, but because she continued on in her education at the high school level, the state doesn't recognize that she has graduated and won't until this school year is over. But
Yes,
but she had everything she needed when she, her first graduation year.
because what triggered it, it said, my daughter is working towards a diploma. And I went,
Right.
is that just written in there just because you had to write something? Well, because she still is. And I went, huh? So,
Yeah. Yeah. And the teacher started to speak up about that. And then the facilitator said, no, she's right, even though she's got one on the wall, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah. But
okay.
now it is time to wrap up.
Oh, wrap up.
So, thank you for joining us, Mom and Alex, and anyone else who might have been here. Hopefully, you were able to stay with us the whole time. And if you're watching in replay, hopefully we don't ever freeze and you get to see everything that we shared with you today. We will be back next week. And I hope from now until then, you have a great week. Bye, everyone.